Did you?
Everybody, the hard cam is online. Welcome back. It's a Thursday night, and we are live and ready to go. Paul, how you doing tonight, my man?
Not the best. I made some bad draft decisions, and I'm paying the price. But yeah,
that's all right. I got my card is ready to go, sir. I assure you. Quick rundown tonight. We'll run over Backlash real quick. AEW Double or Nothing coming up. MJF, his hair versus the title. We'll see where that one's going. We're going to do how our draft went, and I don't know if you got a card put together, but I do. And, of course,
I do, too.
Today in pro wrestling history, of course, one of my favorite things to do, and we might even touch on a touchy subject that Kevin Nash got into. We'll get to that in a little bit. But tonight, we're talking wrestling the only way we know how to, unfucking filtered, and we're glad to have you. Go over Backlash real quick, because it wasn't a long, drawn-out card. We'll get that out of the way. How much did you see?
I've seen a lot of complaining, but I don't know how much of it is serious and how much of it is, because the internet is that way.
Well, I got to go back because the only two matches I remember were Io and Asuka and Jacob and Roman. I got to go look. Let's see. Which one's that? Tell me what you heard, because now that I'm going back at it.
Okay, so all I've seen is a bunch of people complaining about Danhausen. So did Danhausen have a match or a segment? What is this?
Danhausen again, and I've told he has actually now moved up to number one in the merchandise seller in WWE, over top of Punk, over top of Cody, over top of Roman. And I'm not one to say I told you so, but hey, everybody listening, I told you so. Hey, like I said, Tony utilized him a lot of the same way, but it was just like once every 6 months. He wasn't constant with Danhausen. And Danhausen did what Danhausen does. It was supposed to be him and a mystery partner against The Miz and Kit Wilson. And everybody's speculating this. And I'm like, I looked at my wife and I said, it's going to be Minihausen. I'm telling you, it's going to be Minihausen. And guess what? It was Minihausen. And
I heard some rumors that people were saying it was supposed to be Jelly Roll, but I never heard anything of that nature outside of like comments here.
Yeah, that's all. So I saw the same thing you're talking about. I never heard that as a real thing. The only time that I thought somebody else was going to come out was I don't remember if it was The Miz or Kit Wilson, but they took Minihausen back there. He was running from them, and they threw him back in the machine thing that was back there.
Now it's all coming back to me. All the complaints. So there's a weird subset of people that got, I will say this. There's a lot of YouTubers and comments and stuff on Reddit that you'll find where people got really defensive of the Danhausen stuff, where they were trying to sort of like explain it. But like, look, if you like it, there's lots of genres in wrestling. If you like this genre, don't defend yourself for liking it. Just say,
well, that's kind of what I was going to get to. Now, would that have fit in, let's say, back in like the original like couple of Starcades when everything was serious and blood feuds? No. Those fans might have come out of the seats and ripped Danhausen apart by limb from limb. But, we've grown in the past 35 years of to sports entertainment. You know, a lot of people, you know, Vince did not want to hear the word professional wrestler or professional wrestling. They weren't wrestlers, they were superstars. And you know, I mean, for what he did, what he does. I mean, you like you said, you either like it or you don't. And the kids are loving it. They're buying his merchandise. When his first figure comes out, good Lord, you're not going to be able to find it unless it's on eBay for $200 because somebody saw 5 of them at Walmart when they first come out of the box. But
it's like, this is how I think of Danhausen. I will say, not my cup of tea. He wasn't my cup of tea in the indies. When he was in AEW, I still kind of like, huh? But before he was in WWE, when he was in the indies, he was the #1 top seller for ProWrestlingTees.com, which is like where all the indie guys go. So I can look at Danhausen and go, look, not my cup of tea, but he's making some money. Let's be real. Like,
oh yeah,
and if that works for you, sure, go do it. But like, I think it was like Maven or Stevie Richards was making like, hey, wrestling's from the carnival videos. And it's like, look, technically you're still wrong on that one, but you don't have to defend what you like. Just say, I like this. I like being sports entertained, and move on. Don't,
it's
I don't know.
It's
like,
a buffer.
You think,
you know, like we've talked about, AEW's pay-per-views, they stay so hot from top to bottom that the audience, as good as those pay-per-views are, and I have never knocked AEW on their pay-per-views. They just, whether there's a story going into it or not, those matches deliver. But there's no buffer, you know, there's no intermission, there's no, the crowd, you know, they expect the crowd to stay up here all night long. And, you know, the women's evolution has came along, thankfully. So we don't have no more bra and panty pillow matches, stuff like that, to give that intermission, the buffer for the crowd to come back down. And it's like, I'll compare Danhausen to everything back in the day when Cena went to the spinner title. And everybody shit all over that. You know, when he first did the U.S. belt, and then he went and did the world title. And I personally didn't like it. You know, I was like, really, we're doing this to the world title? I mean, I was one of those people, but I get it. You know, I mean, they still sell those in the toy section today. They make a ton of money off of it. And, you know, in Danhausen's defense, if you can get past all the other stuff, I mean, he's not, you know, I don't know. You know, he's not Will Ospreay, but he's not bad. He can actually wrestle. He can put together moves when he's not doing the clown shit. And I mean, he's not a bad in-ring technical wrestler. So if you watch him and give him a chance.
I'll try, like, I'm going to be really fair for Danhausen, but I'm going to try to express the reasons why I don't necessarily like this character. I think it falls in line with the reasons I don't like WWE, because I feel like it's more of a TV show than a pro wrestling company. Like, but saying that, Danhausen is a TV show character. Like, did you ever watch the Hilarious House Frankenstein?
No.
It's like an old 70s parody. It's like the Universal monsters. So like Frankenstein, Dracula, werewolf, blah, blah, blah. But they're all groovy comedy characters. Yeah. And they do like, you know, pantomime, physical comedy, and just silly, like SCTV level hijinks. You know what I mean? That low budget kind of sets. Danhausen looks like he was plucked out of that show and put into modern day, which I can get down with. But at the same time, it's like, not really my thing. But yeah, I would like more in-ring stuff from him. This, like, all the stuff he's really good at is the outer ring stuff, and I'm the type of fan that doesn't really like all the outer ring stuff. So, you know what I mean? It's just it's kind of like a near miss with me.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Though, if you watch his in-ring stuff, he's not bad.
Oh, he's not like unsafe. He's not a bad, but I would want professional wrestling is telling a story in the ring. I like, that's the way I kind of view it. I'm not saying that's the only way to view it. So if he did more of that hijinks in the ring, like Yano or Taguchi and stuff, that's great. That would be more my thing. But my idea, which sounds wacky coming from me saying I don't like that stuff, give Danhausen a barbershop-esque area, right? I feel like that's perfect. A Dungeon of Doom-esque set where he can do interviews. Come into my wacky laboratory. I feel like that would work for him. I wouldn't watch it, but I feel like that would be, like a Firehouse Funhouse, Firefly
Funhouse, yes.
Something like that. Give that to him. Let him have him some props and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't like him because I feel like do that more in the ring. That's my more solidified argument. But yeah.
Well, I will say this for it. Again, it's when his debut was such a flop. The crowd was just like, "Who is this?" And everybody just poo-pooed all over.
Yeah,
just poo-pooed all over it. But since then, I mean, whether it was just the audience like warming up to him, whatever, it's been over. And like I said, it's you don't have those divas matches you used to have to be able to give the crowd a break. And it gives.
So here's a weird conversation for Danhausen, because it would like WWE for the most part, from what I can tell, still has that. That doesn't exist. It's us. We exist. This is what. Because even back when Ric Flair came over, there was a lot of people going, who's Ric Flair? Because you've never brought up anybody else. So I think for Danhausen, that's like a niche indie star. That's like if someone like put John Waters in a Chipmunk movie, you know what I mean? It's just weird, but it's like having that transfer. Was there a moment where WWE fans had to sort of go, okay, you know what I mean? Like,
well, The Miz was doing a podcast a couple of weeks ago before Backlash, out, just being Mike. He wasn't, in that obnoxious character he does, but he was, whoever was doing the interview with him when Danhausen got brought up. He's like, yeah, that's my daughter's new favorite wrestler, and I'm not happy about it. And he started laughing. He's like, really? He goes, then he kind of went into character a little bit. He's like, he broke into my house. He does this. He was in my pool. And he goes, but I looked at her and I said, well, honey, he stole your bike. And she went, that's okay, Daddy. You'll buy me another one. And I'm like, But I mean, for the kids and stuff, and to give the people a break where they can actually sit down in their chair, watch what's going on, have a good laugh, refresh their body, and get ready for the next big match to come along.
A low stakes match. And that's a perfect spot on the card to have, because you don't need to bump too much.
Well, and it's not like kind of like to what you're saying, like WrestleMania. You don't put him in a prime spot in WrestleMania. You give him an appearance for the kids, like maybe on both nights, whatever you want to do with him.
See, I would like, as much as I don't like him, I'd rarely commit to him if I had him on my roster. No, Danhausen would be the host, and you would have a host set designed for him. You know what I mean? Let's go,
yeah, something like that.
Full bore if we're doing it at all. Part of me doesn't know how to feel about the little people, not because I have any opinions about little wrestlers or anything like that, but as soon as I saw it, I went, Vince. You know what I mean? Like, the first thing I thought is, this is a Vince thing to do.
And I forgot what tag team it was, but they had the little person dressed up as a bull all them years ago. Like 10, 15 years. He was El Torito.
Yeah. And, which is an extremely Vince idea to have.
Well, but the guy that did the Minihausen as his main partner was the same one that did El Torito all them years ago. So I did see that.
Yeah, I did notice that, because as soon as I saw him, I was like, this person has a very recognizable build. Like as soon as I saw them moving, I was like, I feel like I've seen you somewhere. So yeah, it would make sense that it would be a worker, someone that they could trust.
Yeah, and like I was saying, when the Miz or Kit Wilson chased him back up the ramp and they got a hold of him and they threw him back in the box turned back on and started shaking. Like I said, okay, who's coming out? I thought maybe because we've seen Jelly Roll's name and some other people, like, all right, now they're going to send out the normal size person to finish the match. Nope. It was about 15 of the little wrestlers that came out and doing their thing. So again, comedy spot. And, you like you said, you like it, you don't, I don't mind it either way, but I think they have, I don't know if you can say the company per se, or if it's just his charisma and personality, but from as bad as he flopped in his debut and people kind of looking at him going, what the hell is this? To now in what, a 2-month time frame, the number one merch seller over Roman Reigns, over CM Punk, over Cody Rhodes. He was number two last month.
What happened in AEW? Like I don't know if I want to go into the whole debate of it, but it's like, did Tony just not understand? Was he like a consequence for some of the other drama that was going on? Because like, hey, Cole Cabana hasn't been seen on TV in a long time, if you catch my drift, right? So like, what happened in AEW where this didn't happen there? Because Cody happened in AEW. Like, everyone jokes that the Cody verse is coming to WWE. Like, you know what I mean? Cody Rhodes was the babyface. People started turning on him, and then he lost the belt or whatever it was, and then he went to the WWE, and it's repeating. So why wasn't that repeat like Cody Rhodes? What happened in AEW where Danhausen didn't have the number one merch spot?
Well, like I said, Tony basically let him do his thing like he's doing now, but it was like once every 6 months you'd see him on TV. And I would just say Tony happened because Swerve Strickland actually did a interview the other day. He's not happy about not being on TV for a while. He was kind of very, very blunt about,
I don't know how much of that is a shooter of work, but yeah, I catch your.
Well, I mean, I would almost, and if so, you got me. If it's a work, you got me. Because I mean, look at what Tony does. I mean, the only one that makes sense that hasn't been on TV is Adam Page, because he was all about the title. MJF beat him clean in that match. It's a Texas death match. He beat him clean. He did not have any help. And now Hangman cannot challenge for the belt again. So him not being seen for a while makes sense. The rest of them that just disappear, it's like, where the hell did they go? I mean, like Britt Baker. Nobody knows what the hell's going on with Britt Baker. We hadn't seen her in almost 2 years.
Oh yeah. So, yeah. I do think there is some exceptions to the argument. Like, Britt Baker's been around, like, gone for a long time. So I feel like there's some exceptions, but yeah, the general rule still applies. Like, 6 months, 4 months, like, why aren't these people out there? But you have the opposite, where in New Japan, they have a lot of multi-man matches to get people on the card, to get them in front of crowds. And people call it filler, and they skip those matches.
Well, that's why WWE used to do a ton of battle royals. Like every show, just about, you'd have a battle royal. Back in the the 80s, early 90s, to get all those people on the shows. And you talk about Ric Flair coming to WWE. Everybody used to accuse Demolition of being a Road Warrior ripoff, but it's like, I hear what you're saying, because I was an NWA, Southern Wrestling Territory guy, and as to where that part of me would agree with you. The other side of the coin was, when Demolition appeared, they had never seen the Road Warriors. So when the Road Warriors finally appeared in WWE, those people that had never seen the Road Warriors were like, who's these fucking Demolition ripoffs? I mean, it just depends on what you watch and what you like. I mean, so, again, like I said, to me, I think what Danhausen's been doing is hysterical. I don't think he did anything different in AEW other than not being put on TV, and whether that was by design or just overlooked or whatever the case might be, it is what it is. So
yeah, who knows what the specific was? Yeah.
Anyway, we got another Trick Williams, Sami Zayn bout. Trick defeated him. Kind of there. Braun Breaker and Seth Rollins opened the show. It was a good, solid match. Breaker went over after some interference, and kind of exactly the way it should have been. Seth laying down for a guy that's going to be in the main event scene for a long time, but it didn't make Seth look weak because of the interference. You had Roman Reigns defeating Jacob Fatu. They put Jacob over. Jacob beat the dog shit out of him the whole match, and like Roman got a quick spear and a pin after Jacob's head hit the top turnbuckle after he'd been exposed. But then Jacob got up and absolutely destroyed him. And then the match of the night to me was Io Sky and Asuka. They put on a hell of a match, and then at the end you had a show of respect. Io bowed to her and Asuka teared up and they were hugging. Everybody thought Asuka was retiring, but his bowman come out that she had some time away planned. So she is not done. She might be semi-retired. I mean, for a WWE show, as bad as some of them have been lately, this was not the worst. Like I said, the Danhausen in between, so I think it went on after Trick and Sammy, which you kind of needed to. I mean, that wasn't a bad match, but I like Sami Zayn, but he's just boring. And the whole gingerbread man stuff on TV with Trick is just, it's gotten old. And so I hope they move both of them on. I like Trick Williams. I think he's going to be a star, but they've got to stop saddling him with Sami Zayn and vice versa. So, like I said, all in all, it was not a bad show. I mean, well, did you see any highlights of it? Did you see any of the matches or?
I did see a little bit of the women's match you were talking about because I saw a lot of people talking about Asuka and whether she's semi-retired or whether that's just a cop-out for journalists to say because they get their news headline either way. She does or she doesn't. I don't know. Okay, so tinfoil hat. This is all allegedly, but tinfoil hat. I can't help but notice that there was a bunch of retirements, a bunch of people letting go, and a bunch of people and a couple people in theory leaving to go home to their country. I don't know if it's coincidence all happening at the same time. I don't know if they know something we don't. You know what I mean? It's all very tinfoil hat. But yeah, it just seems very odd that we got a bunch of retirements in a row. We got New Day leaving. We got a bunch of releases. And now, okay, let's say Asuka's leaving. I don't know if it's 100% true, but let's say who is the other lady that left? Kairi Sane, right?
Yeah, she was released. Yeah, that was the one that kind of caught everybody off guard.
And apparently she said she wanted to go home, which I could see. Like Finn Balor, that's a weird topic, but Finn Balor's talking about he's been in the States for so long, but he still feels like a foreigner. You know what I mean? He doesn't have his family there with him. So it's a reasonable thing. But yeah, there's a tinfoil hat part of me that goes, there was a bunch in a row. You know what I mean? It's like one of those cork boards with the string. It doesn't lead anywhere, but there's a bunch of photos of wrestlers.
Well,
I don't know. It's odd. Yeah.
I do think that, and this, people might laugh, people might agree. It's up, it's all how you look at things. But I think for the first time, I will say honestly that I believe if Tony could get somebody in there with him, I know he's never going to give up the reins, but they could talk some sense into him and get some things done to really get eyes on the product. That this is the first time that you would ever heard me say that they have a chance to catch up. And with TKO taking over, you've seen it in the news. They're wanting these wrestlers to take a 50% pay cut. They're releasing people. But Nick Khan and Ari Emanuel,
structuring of the company, I believe is the term they've been using.
But all the CEOs and everything, their salaries keep getting jacked to the moon. So
we gotta be careful here, Jason. We're walking that line there, good buddy.
No, well, I mean that's just they're a publicly traded company. I mean their salaries
these aren't opinions.
Their salaries are their salaries you can find
around us.
Yeah, you can find their salaries. They're not, AEW is a privately owned, AEW is privately owned. You cannot look up and see what somebody's making. But with privately owned companies, you can see those numbers.
WWE covers a very specific type of pro wrestling. AEW does not cover that product, is what I'm trying to say. AEW, like they said, is for sickos. It's a pro wrestling company, let's say. It's still TV wrestling, but it's a pro wrestling company, let's call it. If they want to become the new WWE, they're going to have to offer a service, a product that is WWE-esque. Like, not everybody wants to watch an Ospreay match. Not everybody wants to watch Marina Shafir stomp on glass and kick a lady in the face with the footy, with the glass foot. I get that. So they're going to have to have another show that's very for kids or very sports. Like, I think they're going to have to not be pro wrestling if they want to be WWE, because WWE, I'll like, hey, fight me if you want, but I say it's not pro wrestling at this point. It's TV, which,
well, their biggest, they're the thing that kicked off that got them to whatever was the Attitude Era. And there was, it wasn't the glass per se, but there was a lot of, it wasn't blood baths on a nightly basis, but there was still some blood mixed in there. You got to find the right formula and for everybody.
And that's the thing, because back then their sponsors were like pimple cream, and remember those old collect 1-800 collect, whatever those numbers were. Yeah, so there's got to be a middle ground where you can have Snickers as a sponsor and you can have Skittles as a sponsor, but you can, okay, so my example is always going to go back to Marvel. You can have a company of Marvel and you can have a show like Jessica Jones and Luke Cage. Would I let a little kid watch Jessica Jones or Luke Cage? No. Very adult, very grown-up themes. Now, would I let a little kid watch a Spider-Man cartoon? Hell yeah, of course, because that's a pro. So I think if pro wrestling wants to become that company, they're gonna have to view it like Marvel, where look, have an R-rated show, have a G-rated show, have that NXT Kids that WWE tried a while ago and never really kind of went anywhere with. But you know what I mean? I think like AEW wants to surpass WWE, they have to start spreading into the categories of wrestling that WWE kind of hold, the chokehold on.
Well, I will say this too. You brought up a lot with Ospreay, and I've always enjoyed watching his matches, but for the first time, I'm actually interested in a story. What they're doing with him and the Death Riders. I mean, I don't know. Have you been paying attention to any of that?
Okay, so we're gonna have to have a chat, because I haven't been paying attention to that, but I haven't been paying attention to the story of him in Japan, which I am confused about. Okay, so very, very quickly, in Japan, he's a face, but he's with a heel faction.
Yeah, you told me that.
He's doing the whole like, oh, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. So saying that, what is the story ongoing with the Death Riders and Will Ospreay?
Okay. When he came back and he, because my first question was, I mean, he'd been gone so long, I didn't remember who hurt his neck, who they storyline hurt his neck. And, he come back and said he was out for Moxley's ass because Moxley's the one that hurt him. And then they did the match at the pay-per-view. So, it's AEW. I just assumed that Ospreay would get the win and we'd move on. And plus they've been trying to turn, they were teasing that babyface turn of the Death Riders. So I'm like, well, this is weird because they're going to bring Will back to this huge pop and whatever. But anyway, so you go to the pay-per-view and Moxley wins. I'm like, well, that's odd. Okay. Well, didn't see that one coming, and Moxley won clean. He choked him out. It wasn't a bunch of interference or whatever, but then you move forward and, Will's still doing his thing with Moxley, and Moxley's got a hold of him a couple of times and told him, don't make this personal. This is never personal. Always keep it business. And then he got beat up real bad one night. The Death Riders come out there. They beat him up because he was calling Moxley to the ring, and Moxley put the chair back around his neck. And he leaned down with the microphone and basically said, I'm not going to do this to you, but when you wake up, I want you to watch this tape and understand what I could have done to you right now. And listen to me. Stop taking this personally. Well, and then they went and I want to say it was a Don Callis family that come out and beat Will up, and the Death Riders actually came out and saved him, but he was kind of laid out, and Claudio throws him over his shoulder, and they take him back into the back, and then they show on Collision where he's in the back, and they're kind of waking him up a little bit, and he's all, what the hell? And Moxley basically tells him, I can show you what you need to do. You're welcome to come train with us. I know you'll never be one of us, but you can come train with us. And, they started showing like training sessions with him with the Death Riders. And like the other night last night before he wrestled, they showed a session where he was, leaned back this way on his neck and like doing the whole thing with his, like doing neck exercises. And then he went out and he wrestled, who did he wrestle last? He wrestled Ace Austin last night.
Ace Austin, yeah.
Yeah. So after he won the match, he won it with a tap out, with an armbar. And so they announced the Owen Hart bracket last night, and he's got Samoa Joe in the first round. Well, here come Joe and Anthony Bowens, who is now a member of the Ops, and oh my God, Shibata. And Joe's like, I'm not going to do this, but I can't control what they're going to do. So here comes Bowens and Shibata down in the ring, and Will's in fighting stance, and the Death Riders music hit, and they come down, and they help back them back up. But it's interesting where they're going. I think where they're going to wind up going with it, and I don't, again, this is just purely speculation on my part, but I think you're going to wind up getting instead of a fight like was what Will tried to do in the last one, because Moxley's like advice last night. He's like, when I first saw you as the junior heavyweight tournament somewhere, he goes, and you were flying all over the place. He goes, with not a care in the world. He said, you can still do that. You just got to get back there mentally. And he goes, you also have to have a ground game. And he was showing him different stuff and this, that, and the other, and showing him how to do the choke and all kinds of stuff. And I think where it's going to get to is it'll get to a point to where he tells him, okay, you've taught me all you can. Now let's me and you go one more time. And it'll be one of those respect matches where Will wins, they shake hands, and they move on. But it's been an interesting story thus far.
Yeah, see, this is maybe where I'm just a weird fan, because I've been watching this going like, what are they doing? Because it's one of those things where it's like comic books. If you like a certain comic book character, you can't read all the comic books that have this character in it, because everybody's going to write this character different. The Punisher in that comic is different than the Punisher in this comic because the writers. So as someone who's watching New Japan, I've been looking at AEW going, sorry, what is happening? In New Japan, I understand he's face, the crowd love him, they respond. The heels do heel things, and he kind of like, come on, man, to them, and him and Callum Newman are sort of beefing. But when I look at AEW, I'm kind of like, so is he turning? Are they making him? From what I'm understanding, this is the story reason why Will Ospreay is going to have a bit more of a grounded game.
Yes,
which I can imagine. Like I can see that, but the other part of me is like, I don't know. For some reason, I didn't see the Moxley match like as a down the line thing. Some part I was just like, I don't know. I guess I think I'm just confused because my brain is in this story. You know what I mean? And then I'm poking my nose in this story, and it's a little bit different. So hopefully it clicks for me soon. But yeah, just as a New Japan fan looking at AEW, I'm kind of going.
And, and we'll touch on this one for a quick second and keep going. But the MJF thing has me very intrigued, because normally I can tell you what's going to happen. But if Darby was bigger, and I know people are going to just yell at me for that, I don't care. I'm from the Sid Vicious days, man. So, Barry Windham, 6'6", 300 pounds, that moved like a cat. And, Darby has now defended against, Brody King, and then last night he beat Takeshita, which made me roll my eyes. But now, after he beat Takeshita, MJF had to come out and sign the contract for title versus hair. I mean, he's defended the title, was it Brody King, Kevin Knight?
He's like V4 at this point. Like,
yeah, something like he's defended it every week. And so, but if Max loses his hair, I know he's got some movie roles coming up, but that would be the only reason I would see that Max would agree to have his head shaved. But on the flip side, that you've got a champion that weighs about 126 pounds, burning the candle at both ends, and we'll just catch up to him or whatever. And rumors have been circulating that Adam Page will show back up at the pay-per-view, but who will he assist, Darby or MJF? So I don't know. Like I said, I'm intrigued with the story. Darby, I don't dislike Darby, but Darby to me is not a world champion, simply because of his size. And and I said the same thing about Rey Mysterio. When Rey Mysterio,
wrong with an underdog champion, like
it's not.
If they do it right, there's nothing wrong with it. But
you can't keep putting you like week after week after week. You're putting him over guys that just, I mean, if they were out in a bar, would wipe the floor with him.
Yeah, but I do like the story of it. I like the logic of it, because people have accepted it. Well, people have accepted it for bigger men. Because if we were to take Darby and interchange it with Foley, I think a lot of people would go, yeah, okay, that's it. To be fair, Foley was like 6'4" when he was Cactus Jack in WCW.
And like 325, yeah.
Yeah, so he was a bigger dude. Now, I can agree with the logic of the story of, yeah, he's a little dude. He doesn't look too hard to beat. We can throw him around. But nothing we do puts him down. Like, no matter what, he still gets up. I can, like, it's like Rocky Balboa, right? Of a little guy. Like, I can appreciate that story, but the story has to come to a conclusion. Like, there has to be a Rocky 2, there has to be a Rocky 3. Like, Rocky loses in these movies, you know what I mean? So there has to be some up and down. But saying that, I kind of like Darby as champ if he keeps fucking trying to kill himself every match. Him and Takeshita seemed like how much can I hurt my friend here match.
Well, I've told my wife before. I said, you know, if I was a wrestler in the AEW locker room, I said Darby seems like he's a nice guy, and Tony, hey, we're gonna put you out there, and you're gonna wrestle Darby tonight. I've told you before I didn't want to wrestle Darby. Not a good idea. Why not? Darby, come here. You know I love you, right? Yeah. All right, well, he wants me out there against you tonight, and I don't mind laying down for you. That's not the issue. But if you hurt me with any of your dumb shit, when I get up, I am going to beat your fucking ass for the world to see. Are we clear? And, hey, Jason, we'll get somebody else to wrestle Darby tonight. Yeah, that's probably a good idea. But like I say, I don't know. But I'm interested to see if how it goes. I'm interested to see if Darby retains the title and MJF walks out in the immortal words of Jimmy the Boogie Woogie Man Valiant, a bald-headed geek, brother.
And he seems like a type of wrestling fan that would jump at a chance to do an old school gimmick like that. Like the whole shave your head. Like, will he come out with a wig? Will he come out with always wearing a hat? Will he, you know what I mean? Like, that's a very 80s gimmick. It's a very classic gimmick.
Well, I feel like they did the hair thing with Wheeler Yuta not too long ago, and that boy's hair's done grown back quick. Like, what the hell are you taking?
But that wasn't like a, how should I phrase it? That was more of like a lucha punishment. MJF would do it more like how Kurt Angle would do it. Oh, you're cutting my hair? I'm turning this into a 6-month gimmick. Where I'm wearing the headgear. You know what I mean? Like, there's different ways of playing it. I saw the Wheeler Yuta thing as like a Japanese Mexican, like, you lost, shave your head, okay, you move on. This is going to be a gimmick, an American.
Well, the only thing that makes me wonder, I mean, it's been very well documented that MJF does, you know, I guess it's, you know, genes, you know, but he spends a lot of money with the hair treatment and the plugs and this, that, and the other to make sure none of his bald spots are showing. He seems to be, even in real life, a very vain individual. So for him to spend the kind of money he does on his hair, the only thing that I can think of that would make him do that is a movie role that he's going to be making good money for. He can have his hair fixed by the time he gets back to TV. You know, you need to make sure if you're going to shave his head that he at least is on TV once or twice to pay off the gimmick to where people are.
I think the idea might be if his head is shaved, they can just wig him up. They can just put wigs on him.
You know, a lot of people asked if stipulations like that still matter, and you know that's kind of where I was going with it is they can definitely matter. Like, and this intrigues me. Like when they did Wheeler Yuta's hair, it was the mixed tag. It was him and Marina against Tony and Orange Cassidy. You already knew who was getting their head shaved. Now, if they really wanted to pop me, if you would have let Tony or Marina be the ones to get their head shaved, that would have got me. But as soon as they signed the match, I'm like, Wheeler's getting his head shaved. And I mean, it was just, it was obvious. And I don't like being able to do that. I want to be surprised, but you know, so this one, like I said, I don't know what's going to happen. And I will be interested to see. And if he does get his head shaved, I'll be interested to see what comes out and what the reason for it is. But, you know, we'll go back. We talk about Kairi Sane leaving. We talked about Asuka taking some time off, possibly being semi-retired, according to everything that's been read.
Whatever that means.
You know, we've read several places since WrestleMania took place that the original plan was for Brock Lesnar to lose to Gunther at SummerSlam, and Brock pulled the swerve and said, "Nope, I'm done here."
Ooh, that's a.
And there's you know, with Kofi and Xavier being given their release, that they did ask for it. You know, they were asked to restructure their contracts from WWE to TKO. You had a lot of people released. the word going around about Aleister Black and the Wyatt Six was there's an executive at TKO that does not like the dark gimmicks. Whether that's true or not, you don't know unless you're on the inside. Triple H continues to take.
I'm not a fan of the dark gimmicks, so
Triple H continues to take heat online, even though that the more I look at it, it was TKO that wanted Pat McAfee inserted into the storyline. Reports have suggested that once they did that, Triple H changed the finish from Randy winning the title to keeping it on Cody because he was pissed. And so that he would revisit the story and do it the way he wanted to do it after WrestleMania. You never know what to believe, but there's been some topics that come up, and Kevin Nash was very vocal the other day. What do you think about what Big Sexy had to say?
Look, we got to tread lightly on this because it's a very controversial subject, but the idea of unions in professional wrestling is something that's, from what I can tell, of more of an American issue because of the way that the systems are different. I don't know how they would make it work. All I know is if I remember correctly, I didn't do my research in the last 20 seconds, but in Great Britain, professional wrestlers fall under a stage performance union, like guild, if you will. So the people who do Hamlet are the same people who do Insane Championship Wrestling in Scotland, per se. So if that's a possibility over there, it's not a pro wrestling union. It's just pro wrestlers are under the umbrella of a union. I guess it would be like if you were a construction union. There's some that are just like umbrella unions. It's not just a singular plumbing union. It's sort of, yeah, we do plumbing and construction, like blah, 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 blah. So if that's a possibility over there, then, it could be something in the States. I think in Japan and Canada, we have it's a little bit different because of our healthcare differences. Let's just call it that. So, look, is it needed in companies like WWE and AEW, these big billion-dollar companies where the talent are maybe not getting paid the best? Yes, but how to approach that is like a whoa, holy crap, big political topic we'd have to look at. You know what I mean? Like not even diving. This is the boring politics, not even like the controversial politics. This would be getting into like, would we put them under SAG? Since WWE's Netflix and Netflix makes TV shows, would Seth Rollins fall under the same SAG insurance as the lady who does Young and the Restless?
Netflix also, like Amazon Prime and all these other carriers now are also broadcasting sports. So, and maybe I'm looking at it the wrong way, but this is what I'll say about it. Okay. I don't see what the issue is, and I don't see why it would be that hard. And here's why I say that: Major League Baseball has a union. The NFL has a union. Okay, MLS has a union. The NBA has a union.
Interrupt, but can I have a clarification here? The union for baseball, like the MLB, is that just an MLB union?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. No, that's
they all have a separate union, and like they have a players representative, and when you hear like possible strike coming up, for whatever league you want to talk about,
like baseball's happened a few times,
in NFL, it's because their collective bargaining agreement has come to an end or is getting ready to come to an end, and they cannot come to an agreement on the new one, on a new collective bargaining agreement, and which includes the rise in base salary, the rise in veteran minimums, and the rise
and let's call them like extras, because if you're there for 10 years you might get an extra parking spot, or you know what I mean, like you're gonna get extras within the company where it's like, oh, this guy gets blah,
an extra parking spot's gonna be in your contract. That's gonna be up to your agent to negotiate. But this is this is more about the money and the revenue split and all that stuff. But like I said, the NBA, the NFL, MLB, the NHL, they all have their own separate unions. They do the same thing, And with, you know, with the NFL, for example, it's 32 different teams. You know, to me, you don't need a union for WWE and AEW and TNA, blah, 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 blah. You can have a professional wrestler / sports entertainment union that, you know, that negotiates with.
Almost ironically, you need an like an NWA or an IWGP, where it's like we just need a governing body, because that's all the IWGP is a made up governing body that makes the belts. And it's like Jack Tunney and the blah 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 says, but yeah, you almost need something. It's like no, any pro wrestling show under this, if you have a ring, 4 posts and ropes, or even no ropes, it's a wrestling event.
Well, and you know, Jesse Ventura, to give him his due, you know, I don't particularly like listening to him ramble, but back in the 80s when he wanted them to unionize for the reasons he wanted them to, in my opinion, he was 100% correct. Because you look at, if you've ever seen the movie The Wrestler with Mickey Rourke playing Randy the Ram, unfortunately, the funny part about that movie is, you know, when the movie came out, WWE promoted it by having Mickey Rourke and Chris Jericho like go back and forth stuff with each other. But now Chris Jericho looks like Randy the Ram, but that's a different story for a different day. But that, what you saw in that movie with some of those older guys and like Randy the Ram having to work at a grocery store and then go wrestle on the weekends because his fame had diminished. You know, he was no longer the main event guy he was in the 80s, but he's living off that prior fame doing these Comic-Cons and weekend shows and stuff like that. But he was not in any physical, his body still looked like he could go, but he had some, you know, the underlying was the heart issues and stuff like that he had. And you didn't see it, but the way the movie went off, it looked like he had a heart attack in the movie.
I feel like that was the metaphor of the movie. It was all a facade.
Yeah.
This big, tough, strong man. Inside, he's just this crippling little kid who's trying to relive like his youth.
Relive that and try to make some money off of it because all the money was gone. But like, you know,
but that's what I mean. He's trying to relive that I can have, you know what I mean? He had money back then. But anyway, I just thought it was a weird movie to promote for the WWE because it's not necessarily.
It's not flattering. It's not flattering to the wrestling business at all.
No, it's not. But you could also make that same movie with actors, and you wouldn't have to change anything. You know what I mean?
Hardly anything.
Well, you may have to do the jumping off the top rope at the end, but the metaphor like I said, apply.
Yeah, but I mean, these guys and girls, they go out there, they put their bodies on the line. Again, it's a, yes, it has a predetermined finish, but outcome, but the danger is still real. I mean, the difference in walking away from the ring and being carried out of the ring is, sometimes less than a half inch, depending on how you land. And, and for these people, good for the WWE. They did, they took care of draws till the day he died after he got, after he got paralyzed in the ring. They made sure he was taken care of financially, housing, medical, the whole 9 yards.
Well, to be fair, they should have. Because that's an absolute horror story, and they need to cover their ass as a company as much as possible on something like that. Like,
well, I'm just saying.
That's obviously that's a bad situation.
The stuff that the players union fight for, like I said, it's the revenue split. It's this, that, the other. It's moving up salaries of the veterans and all that. But they also fight for more stuff for the retired players. More benefits and this, that, and the other for the retired
I'll put
players.
It this way, as a person, not to like get into anything, but look, I'm not defending the millionaires in this situation because I know there's some baseball players that are like I want 50 million or whatever. I'm not defending the millionaires in any shape or way or shape or form, but I remember a story that when the WWE offered the Young Bucks a deal for their NXT contract, they said it was basically lower than minimum wage. They're like, we would be taking a pay cut from the indies to go to NXT. So there's got to be some middle ground.
Well, you know what I mean? That's just like when Ric Flair quit. After he retired, they wanted him to do the role that Titus O'Neil's been doing for a while now before Titus got into it. But, he's come out and gave the number. He said they gave him $250,000 a year. He said, which he could make in 3 months going around to different places. And he said, he said he didn't mind it. He appreciated it. But, part of that deal was for him to be able to do other stuff and them not interfere. And they pulled him, like it was an NWA promoter that they pulled him out of at the last minute, and it pissed him off. He said, the guy didn't have that kind of money to be advertising Ric Flair all over the place, then Ric Flair not be able to show up. But, yeah, I mean, no, like I said, I don't know what the ins and outs of it would be, but I thoroughly believe, I mean, whether you want to do stagehands, acting, sports, they all have a union. So why wouldn't they? I mean, wrestlers have been.
It wouldn't be hard to just umbrella them in with something that makes sense. I could be wrong, but I feel like there's a stunt performer union. Does that feel right? Saying there's a stunt performer union.
I mean, it sounds right now. Whether there is or not, I couldn't tell you. But
I'm just going off of the conversation. But we can put WWE under their stunt performers. Can they get the protections of stunt performers get? If you're working for Jackie Chan, maybe a bad example because that's Hong Kong, but you know what I mean? If you're working for or the Expendables or whatever big movie's coming out, and you're Jason Statham's stunt double who's falling off a building, Seth Rollins should have the same amount of care as that. You know what I mean? Like
100%,
extra
100%.
in theory. So can we get them? Like, I know in Canada we don't technically have a union, but I think we have slightly different socioeconomic situations that make it slightly different. But yeah, I feel like it wouldn't be hard to just like Screen Guild, pop them in there, pop them in the stunt performers. There's got to be like what's Cirque du Soleil? They've got to have a union, right? The you know what I mean? Disney on Ice, they've got to have something, right? I feel like
I'd be interested to go back and look and see if circus performers actually had one.
Okay, I think my point is if we don't make one for professional wrestling, if we don't make one just for WWE, we can umbrella them in with a similar type of entertainment genre, whether it be stunts, stage performance. Like you put Danhausen on a stage and people would go, that makes sense. He's very much a play character too. He has that over physical acting, like.
Yeah, I don't know, but I mean, like to me, I don't think it would be that hard to do. Maybe I'm just naive when it comes to that, but anybody that's going to go out there and put their body on the line for, that kind of stuff, I thoroughly believe that they need something, and it's been shown over the years, people are still going to do it, regardless of what they have. But I mean, look at all the ones that, I mean, and I'd be curious. I mean, Jimmy Valiant, I brought him up earlier, but I mean, that man just wrestled his last match at 84 years old. And like, did he do that? Did he do it that long because he wanted to, or because he had to?
Yeah. And would a union protect like someone at that level? Like you were saying, they have the NHL union, but if you're an NHL player who's kind of gone down the leagues and is now at a low level league, because people were complaining about Kamala.
Yeah, I mean, he
had the star, but he was out of WWE for a while and had health problems. But people were like, "Oh, you couldn't take care of him," and someone had to say, "Dude, he hadn't been in that company for decades. Like, the Fed isn't some magical company that can just swing a wand and make stuff. It's a capitalistic adventure." You know what I mean? They're not going to be taking care of every single person that has been through their system just because they've been through their system. Now, Draws is obviously, people like that are exceptions to the rule, but in general, they're not helping Ted DiBiase through his legal proceedings now. You know what I mean? Back in the 80s, maybe. Now they don't. You're on your own, big man. Like, figure it out.
And I'll say this too. We talked about it earlier with the millionaires and the baseball and all that football. Yes, it's breathtaking to see these contracts some of these guys sign. I've always been curious with football why like a baseball and a basketball contract is fully guaranteed for what you sign for, but you'll see a football contract that says he signed for 6 years, $286 million with 170 guaranteed. So it's basically, you know, they can cut him and not owe him that extra $100 million. They just owe him up. Just like, I don't understand that, because football's the shortest career span. What I was getting to, though, is with the millionaires, yes, they sign these outrageous contracts, but in the grand scheme of things, if you look at it, they're getting, if you take all the players combined in a league, it doesn't matter which one, pick one. The NHL, the NBA, the NFL, MLB, doesn't matter. They're getting less than 10% of the revenue that comes in between the ticket sales, between the TV rights and the merchandise and everything else. You know, they're all those millions of dollars of contracts you see thrown out to these players, it equates to less than 10% of what comes in. So at the end of the day, you know, if you actually look at the real numbers, they're still kind of getting screwed.
Hey, if Wayne Gretzky can have insurance, if you know what I mean, so can Roman Reigns. You know what I mean? It's. I think it's weird that it's such a different conversation in different countries. There's these sort of protections that we all take for granted. You know what I mean? I
do. All right, let's move on and have some fun with it. So you got your card ready to go, right? You want to go first? You want me to go first?
How about you go first? Because I have to go run for a tinkle, to be honest.
I'm not going to do that until you get back. So let me see what I can do here.
Okay, give me 30 seconds.
He said, give him 30 seconds. So we'll be right back.
Okay. I mistimed my Red Bull and my pre-show pee. I'm sorry.
All right, we are resuming things now. So all right, now you're back. Card. So you want to go? You want me to go? What are we doing here?
I can do mine because we have 32 each, which I thought for a company is really bad. 32 people is not a lot, but 32 people on a single show. Okay, we're gonna have to pull some strings here. We're gonna have to slam some things together, but I feel like I got some sort of comprehensive match layout. So right off the start, opening match, we're gonna have an American style opening match with a big explosive match. And it's going to be a 3-on-3, starting with Minoru Suzuki, Chad Gable, and Josh Alexander. And they're going to be all like, shoot, wrestling, come out. You know what I mean? Like towels and that kind of stuff with the short boots. And they're going to go up against Tiger Mask, Bolton Oleg, and Royway Oiwa as a nice big, like, strong style versus shoot style 6-man clusterfuck, if you will.
All right, who's the winner?
It's like, is it just a show, or are we doing a storyline here?
I didn't do a storyline. I did a show, but okay. my show had reason. So
okay, so I'll say here, Suzuki at the end will cheat, and we'll have Chad Gable, Josh Alexander, and Minoru Suzuki as a heel trio, kind of like healing out at the end. Yeah, so we're gonna have the Murder Grandpa and two young, hungry shoot style competitors. You want me to do the whole card?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, because this one I was like, I didn't realize I put this combination together, but this is a realistic match that could potentially happen in theory. Great Okan and Hanare versus The Bar, which I didn't realize that I drafted together. So Sheamus and Claudio. So these let's have
raise this as the bar. We are the bar.
This is going to be a time limit draw, 20-minute time limit draw, and these lads are just going to beat the absolute piss out of each other, and it's going to end with all four of them laying on their backs, like time limit, and they both just lay there for like 4 or 5 minutes. Like, we're telling the story of these are two big, strong teams that are here to dominate, and they've run into another team that feels the same. And now, after 6-man and a big, strong style tag, we're gonna have a 4-way match. We're gonna have Colt Cabana, Ryusuke Taguchi, Akira Tozawa, and Hyper Masao come out and do the most bollocks of bollocks comedy matches you've ever seen in your life. Like, Hyper Masao is gonna have her bike. Colt Cabana is gonna have all sorts of like British whoop whoop here, there, and everywhere. It's gonna be 10 minutes of let's get every laugh we can really quickly. Because the next one is another 6-man, because we have a 6-woman, because we have a lot of people to go through. But we're going to go Aja Kong, Suzumi, and Miyu Yamashita versus Nikki Cross, J-Rod, and Jody Threat. And we can do a sort of, I hate these gimmicks, but we could do it, sort of East versus West. You know what I mean? Like, everybody wants to represent where they're from, and it becomes a problem. But yeah, that'll be a good physical match. And then we're going full lucha, sort of. So we have Ultimo Guerrero, Mystico, and El Desperado versus Robbie Eagles, Show, and Titan. And this is just going to be 6-man lucha, go, 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 boom, 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 boom. Beautiful, like, everyone's going to do a bunch of dives kind of matches. And it'll be one of those high-paced ones. Because the next one, I can't do one-on-ones because there's too many people. The next one's going to be Suzumi versus Athena versus Yuka Sakazaki. And this is just going to be a big match, but keep it kind of a little bit simple. Like, nothing kind of crazy, just keep it in the ring and go crazy. And the final match, another 3-way, is going to be Yuya Uemura versus Konosuke Takeshita versus Kenta. And this one, I almost like wrote the match out. I'm not going to do it. But Yuya and Takeshita are great athletes, and they can do all the high spots, and Kenta can just come in and slow it down, brother, because he's great at that. But I thought, you know what? You have Kenta win. You put the belt on him if we're doing that, and you let him do a lazy heel run, and he'll be the like, oh, you didn't fight clean, we don't like you heel. So that is my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 matches out of 32 wrestlers. What do you have, Jason?
I have got a whole entire new company.
Oh my goodness.
Now, what was the theme of this draft? It was worldly, correct?
Something like that.
Well, welcome to WTW, World Throne Wrestling, where every kingdom falls. And this is our first pay-per-view. Ascension. Empires are not inherited. They are conquered. So, would you like to hear the pre-show match?
Okay, so we're coming in, we're turning on the program. We got a bunch of people in nice jackets, and they're giving us the pre-show. What is the pre-show?
It's only one match on the pre-show, and it's the future showcase match, the future of WTW, when you have Callum Newman versus Kevin Knight versus Joseph Connors versus Michael Oku in a fatal 4-way.
These are your future.
Yes.
Okay.
They're all young.
Poor Callum Newman, but okay, we're
and of course you know how this match is going to go. It's fast paced, all over the place, and the winner
of pace
is Callum Newman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotta make
notice there's no title on him. Then we go into the pay-per-view. Match number 1 is a semifinal match to determine the first ever WTW World's Television Champion. With a lot of backstage negotiation, MJF weaseled his way into the finals. So the winner of this match will face MJF later in the night. You have Will Ospreay versus Vikingo versus Nick Wayne versus Bandito. Absolute pandemonium and insanity to start the match. I hate to follow this one, but
we're removing the guardrails for this one.
But coming out on top and facing MJF later in the night, Will Ospreay. And then match number 2 in a World's Tag Team Championship Tournament semifinal. The Usos versus the Trick Willie gang of Carmelo Hayes and Trick Williams. And, of course, that's the Usos going over. Got to get the Usos in there. And then a World Tag Team Championship Tournament semifinal. See who's facing the Usos. Roosh and Umino versus Fletcher and Breaker with Paul Heyman.
Poor Shooter. He feels out of place no matter where you put him. I don't know what he's done to himself.
Well, through a lot of interference and catching the referee's eye, Fletcher and Breaker advance to face the Usos. Match number 4, because nobody really cares, but you got a special attraction, kind of an intermission match, in my opinion, of CM Punk versus Joe Hendry. CM Punk comes out on top. They shake hands, and we move on. And then technical brutality for you. Zack Sabre Jr. versus Ilya Dragunov. What are you looking around like that for?
Is Dragunov Dijak? Is that the same person, or is that a different person?
Ilya Dragunov's the Mad Dragon, the one that was in NXT for a while. That very intense. A lot of people in WWE do not like wrestling him. Him and Gunther had absolutely just between NXT UK and then NXT when both of them came in, they had absolutely.
I think the names in my head are too similar. I get them confused.
Yeah, but
the Djokovic, Dijak. There's a couple that are similar.
Yeah, Ilya Dragunov is your winner in that one. And then for the sickos out there, we have a Darkness Falls match with Killer Cross with Scarlett versus Uncle Howdy. And of course, you're a very violent cinematic atmosphere, and the winner is Killer Cross with Scarlett. Then we go into a global showcase match of Naito versus Dominic Mysterio. Naito embarrasses Dominic repeatedly embarrasses Dominic. And then Dominic steals the momentum after a surprise appearance by Liv Morgan. And after a little bit of help from Liv, he still couldn't win. Naito wins the match.
Honestly, that'd be a good match because Dom thinks he's the trickster. And Naito just looks at him and goes, I have 30 years more experience than you. I know every single trick in this book. I wrote half of them. So it would be fun to set up a scene you've seen before and just have Naito go, I did this one 15 years ago. What do you think you're going to get? It'd be a fun teacher and the master kind of match.
Yeah, like some of the younger ones back when Flair was, getting in his later days and him going, really? Flair catch him in the ring.
This one.
All right, we move to the next one, which is the finals of the World Television Championship. Will Ospreay versus MJF, and his surprise is with Paul Heyman. Heyman reveals that MJF is the true jewel of his empire, and nearly fall after fall, MJF cheating repeatedly to try to win, but Ospreay survives, lands the hidden blade to become the first ever WTW World's Television Champion, Will Ospreay.
I think we need to make a show out of this because I know a way that we can make this WTW into a game and work through it and promote these shows and work up the ranks. It's something we can look into.
That's why I played around with it a little bit. Then you got the Usos versus Fletcher and Breaker with Heyman for the tag team titles to determine the first ever tag team champions. And as usual, Heyman constantly interfering. Braun cuts Jay in half with a spear through the barricade, but the Usos, their chemistry and tag team experience come out. Final result, Double Uso splash on Kyle Fletcher for the win, and they are the first ever tag team champions. Then we got your main event. You ready for this one? To determine the first ever WTW World's Heavyweight Champion. You have Roman Reigns versus Okada with Paul Heyman versus Swerve Strickland versus Oba Femi. Heyman gets on the mic and promises Okada will leave as champion. Swerve nearly steals the match twice. Oba, of course, they have put over like a monster, and Roman, as always, refuses to stay down. Oba, late in the match, he is destroying everybody in sight. Powerbomb Swerve onto the apron, launches Roman through the announce table, plants Okada with a massive sit-out powerbomb in the center of the ring. The crowd believes it's over. 1, 2, and who shall appear? CM Punk pulls the referee out, and Oba snaps. Oba's chasing Punk into the crowd. They brawl everywhere. Back inside the ring, Okada slowly getting up. Swerve catches him with a house call. He goes in for the kill, but out of nowhere, Swerve catches him gets caught with the Rainmaker. Okada collapses on top of Swerve, but before the referee can count to 3, Reigns flies back in, destroys Okada with a spear out of nowhere. Roman drapes his arm across. 1, 2, 3. Your first ever WTW World's Champion, the Tribal Chief, Roman Reigns. And as the fireworks explode, who comes back to the ring but the Usos with the tag team titles? And as they are going off, Paul Heyman looks shocked. Roman raises the championship above his head. And then the final thing you see is Will Ospreay standing on the stage holding the television title. And then Paul Heyman stares at Roman in disbelief as MJF, Breaker, Fletcher, and Okada stand behind him. And the war for the throne of WTW has only just begun.
Oh, no.
What?
It's like, I feel like this might be a reoccurring series. This is just something about it.
Like that, did you?
Might have some meat on the bones.
All right, let's see. Let's get back into it. We'll go to my favorite thing today in pro wrestling history. Gotta find it. When's your next match coming up? We hadn't even asked you today.
I'm not sure yet. I gotta talk to my promoter and maybe a couple other ones, but at the moment we're waiting, I think, till November, he said, but I'm gonna try to do better than that, but we gotta see.
Oh, okay. Well, Thanksgiving Day was always a big day in the wrestling business. The WWF ruined it. That's okay. All right. 38 years ago on the NWA Worldwide Wrestling, the Fantastics defeated the Midnight Express to win the U.S. Tag Team titles in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Match had been taped in April. The Fantastics will hold the belts in July before losing them back to the Midnight Express. 42 years ago this week, Magnum TA defeated Mr. Wrestling 2 to win the Mid-South North American title. Elektra Lopez, that's one I do not understand why they released, was 34 today. Did you watch much of Legado del Fantasma in NXT?
No. That name does not ring a bell at all.
It was Santos Escobar, the two guys, Joaquin Wilde and the other one that ended up going with the LWO stuff, and her as Legado del Fantasma. And when they brought him up, they left her in NXT and put Zelina Vega with him. Nothing against Zelina Vega, but I mean, she, I don't know why they released her. She was good. Scott Hogg Irwin, who also went as one half of the Super Destroyers with his brother Wild Bill, was born on this day in 1952. Dr. Death Steve Williams, born on this day in 1960. 38 years ago on WWE Superstars, Bobby Heenan and Rick Rude came out on the interview platform during the height of Rude's feud with Jake Roberts. Rude bragged that when he stood in the ring and removed his robe the week before, he could see the gleam in the eyes of Robert's wife, Cheryl. He claimed he had to step out of the ring to give her the thrill of a lifetime. And needless to say, here came Jake, and the feud was off and running even more. 24 years ago on SmackDown, the Hurricane defeated Tajiri and Billy Kidman to regain the WWE Cruiserweight title. 28 years ago today, the FTW Championship made its first appearance at ECW's It Ain't Seinfeld event. Matt Cardona is 41 today. Robert Fuller, also known as Colonel Parker, is his birthday today. I don't know how old he is, but 31 years ago tonight, In Your House went on for the very first time. Diesel retained the title by defeating Psycho Sid.
Diesel.
Big Van Vader, Leon White, born on this day in 1955. It's been 5 years ago today since New Jack died, passed away. He was just 58 years old. 42 years ago today, the eighth day of the reign of Kerry Von Erich's NWA World Title reign saw him still in Florida defending the title twice in one day. He beat Ron Bass by DQ, and then Fort Myers, he defeated superstar Billy Graham. One half of the Fantastics, Tommy Rogers, was born on this day in 61. Mike Halleck, the man behind WWE's Mantar, was born on this day in 68. I never knew who that was. Former Patriots and Buccaneers tight end and former WWE 24/7 champion Rob Gronkowski is 37. Thought he was older than that. And that is it. That is today in pro wrestling history. Anything there jump out at you?
Mantar? Is that what you just said? Hold on.
I did.
Oh my God.
Do you remember that
wrestling?
That was
wrestling can be weird sometimes.
Well, I mean, that was in the day of I don't know. When they still did shit like that, like right before the Attitude Era. So,
Yeah.
I've never asked you this. What made you fall in love with pro wrestling? What got you into it?
Oh, it's just been there. Like I got a picture on my Instagram. My mother looked at that and said, "Oh, that was in '87." I said, "Okay, well, it's the summer '87." I was born I was born December '86. So I'm 6 months old, standing up on a crib, and it's a little thing that says, "I love watching wrestling," and I'm watching wrestling with my dad. Like, obviously, it's just him watching wrestling and me being there so he could watch me, but like, it's literally always been there. And especially being like born in the 80s, growing up in the 90s, and then being a teenager in the 2000s, you can probably logically see well, when you're 4, that's when Hogan's big. When you're 10 is when NWO is big. When you know what I mean? Like, when I'm 15, that's when ECW, like, I get into ECW. Like, it's just always been there.
That's a hard question for me to answer, because I remember, going back to being a kid, I remember like the angle wise setting up for Starrcade 83 when Harley Race put a bounty out on Flair, and then Bob Orton Jr. and Dick Murdoch beat him up, and so they had collected the bounty, and Flair was doing a taped interview they were showing, saying he was going to retire. It was just too much. And then they showed Orton and Murdoch getting in the ring for not Murdoch, with Slater, excuse me. Orton and Slater getting in the ring for a tag team match, and then here comes Flair out of nowhere with a baseball bat, smacking at him and chasing him, and then telling Harley Race that he was coming after him. But that was 83 at some point, because of Starrcade 83. And I met Roddy Piper in 81, and it's not because I have that good of a memory. It's just the autograph the autograph he signed, it says Roddy Piper 81. I just been watching it as long as I can remember. It was, it's like people are like, "Oh my God, you still watch Raw? It's been so bad." It's like, I can't disagree that it's been bad. It's just like ingrained in my head. Hey, Raw is on. Like I said, because I was watching it before it was Raw. I was watching this primetime wrestling. I used to love primetime wrestling. Gorilla and Bobby Heenan were great together, with the banter they had on that show. And of course, they would recap the weekend from Superstars and Challenge, and also some just arena shows. And, funny story, my oldest daughter, both, my kid used to watch it with me. But my oldest daughter, when she was little, I don't remember what she was doing, but her mom was getting on her about something. And just out of nowhere, she went, and I was like, "Uh-oh, where's this going?" And she looked at her, she goes, "Mama, don't sing it, just bring it." And I about lost it. I was like, she's like, "Are you going to say something to her?" I'm like, "Stop, I can't. I can't right now." She was only like 3 or 4 years old. So, but yeah, I mean, it's just been a lot of, and I've told you before, I think that's what really like disconnects me from today's product so much, is the emotion that it used to. So somebody was talking the other day, and I wish I could remember who it was, about how much better the in-ring work is today. And they are 100% correct. You know, how much better and how much more exciting that the in-ring product is. You know, there's a few things from back in the day that you could watch that would still hold up today, but, you know, not a lot. I mean, let's just be honest with you. That's not a lot. Just if you're going on match quality alone.
Okay.
It's the emotion that was invoked with, you know, guys that looked, you know, they were 280, 300 pounds, but they weren't in great shape. I mean, they weren't like, you know, they weren't Sid at 300 pounds in the shape he was in, or Kevin Nash for that matter. You know, they were just guys that looked like they could be a bouncer in a bar, you know, thick, you know, not fat per se, but just big and thick, you know, like your construction workers and stuff like that. And, but, you know, them coming out and, you know, like the Horseman rubbing Ricky Morton's face in the concrete and him, you know, looking like he, you know, coming out for 3 weeks with his face all bandaged up. And it was the emotion they were able to invoke from even the ones that knew that if they did half that stuff to each other, they'd kill each other. But, you know, because it was still the wink, wink, nod, nod, you know, kayfabe was still a thing. And, you know, that's the difference for me. You know, yeah, the holy shit moments are great. It's like, oh my God, what did he just do? But that emotion of, you know, Dusty needs to go, you know, he needs to get his boys and go get the Horseman back for jumping him in the parking lot. Or, you know, can you believe Andre did that to Hogan? Hulk looked like he was about to cry. You know, I mean, Greg Valentine, you know, Roddy Piper can't hear because of Greg Valentine. It was, you know, yes, the in-ring product is 1,000 times better than it ever was back in the 70s and 80s. Now, did Flair and Steamboat have great technical wrestling matches? Absolutely. But they're not doing the stuff that an Ospreay does, or, you know, Omega and Okada did in Japan. That's so when I'm talking about today's product versus yesterday's product, I want people to understand that it's you know, and those guys back then weren't, you know, the athletes that we have today. You know, they didn't train and take care of their bodies. I mean, they were out drinking till 6 o'clock in the morning or 5 o'clock in the morning and getting back up at 6 and starting their day over again, you know, running 320 days a year. So no, it wasn't, the in-ring product wasn't there. It was the emotion that it invoked. The same reason you wanted to watch a soap opera every day, because, you know, Stefano, that bastard, was, you know, trying to brainwash Marlena again, and everybody thought Roman was dead, but he's in a cage. I mean, you know, it's the same. It's the same concept over and over again, and it doesn't matter if it's a wrestling match or if it's a TV show that you get hooked on. If they can invoke your emotion and pull you in, that's what gets you hooked.
See, this is okay. So this is where wrestling philosophy and like fan philosophy differs, because yeah, like, make me feel something as a form of entertainment. But I'm going to say, as a fan, if I'm watching professional wrestling, maybe, just a suggestion, use professional wrestling as the art form to tell your story. If I go to a professional wrestling show and I watch a screenplay, I'm going to be very upset. You know what I mean? Like, I'm happy this is entertaining. This is great. But there's a ring there. Why are you know what I mean? Like, we give WCW TNA shit for not having matches and ring time and that kind of stuff. So there's got to be like, where are we not meeting in the middle? Because the wrestling I watch invokes emotion during the match, during the storytelling in the match. When they're doing their final sequence, you feel this well of emotion of the story they've told in the ring. That's my wrestling. Now, if you're like, remember when John Moxley did the whole spike in the eye thing, which is a very retro story?
Yep.
Not my necessarily the cup of tea, because that's very outside of the ring storytelling. I like the in the ring storytelling. I like when two people get in the ring and you go, I think they don't like each other for realsies.
Oh no,
you know what I mean?
I love that. I mean, it's like the whole I told you, the whole Bryan Danielson Miz thing, that I could have went the rest of my life without knowing that was a work. You know, because they pulled that off so well on that Talking Smack segment, and because, you know, that was the reported thing, that they really didn't like each other, and then they had to go and ruin it.
If they pulled off that emotion in the ring, I would have been a little bit more hooked. The fact that it was a segment just point went, you know what I mean? My brain went, it's a segment, whatever. if they had that emotion in the ring, like those who actually get really, like, there was a match recently with a Young Lion and Yuto Ice, and there was like this guy's grabbing Yuto by the face and like spitting in his face, and Yuto's trying to like, I'm not going to react. And there's a moment as a fan where you go, this is what, hold on, like this is, you know what I mean? Like, but it's in the ring, it's between the rope storytelling. When it gets outside of the rope storytelling is where I, as a fan, go, not necessarily my thing. Like when people, their video games, what kind of company you like? I like pure. You know what I mean? Tell me a story through sport, like Rocky. You know what I mean? I don't want to necessarily see Rocky. I'm trying to find a good example, but all the Rocky movies were pretty kind of straightforward with the sports story. But it's like, yeah, I don't want to see Rocky 5. That's a good example. That's when he had you know what I mean?
That one was awful. But
yeah, that's when he fought outside of the ring.
Yeah, but it's like we talked about before, though. It's like, you know, I like the stuff that they do on AEW sometimes we've talked about that I don't like. It's not that I have an issue with what they're doing. I need a why, not just to throw two guys together. It's like, if you want to throw two guys together for a wrestling match, for a hey, the winner of this match gets a shot at the TNT title, that's fine. But to put two guys out there that haven't talked about each other, and them to try to start, you know, putting each other through glass and this, that, and the other, that's what turns me off. It's just like, why? I need a why. But like, you know, Jake Roberts, you know, he was very technically sound, but he was not he was not going to give you a 5-star match. His promos were fabulous if you knew what he was doing, because he would talk quietly to make you lean into the TV to hear what he had to say. I'm bringing this up because of today in pro wrestling history. And Rick Rude, you know, Rick Rude could talk. He was a heat magnet. And that wasn't something that came out of that looked like it was, of course, it was planned. She was planning. But for him, he had been doing that whole rude awakening with the crowd person for, you know, probably a couple of months at this point. And, you know, then he goes over there to do that. And she's like, no, I'm good. I'm here to see my husband. Who's your husband? And, you know, she says, Jake. And then it naturally progressed from there, because Rick Rude's heel character, you know, every woman wants me, blah, 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 blah. And, you know, it was that natural progression of Rick Rude's being an asshole, you know, basically getting in her face, telling her how bad her husband sucked. And then you had, you know, they weren't just put together, because Jake come running out with a towel wrapped around him like he was coming out of the shower, you know. So that's the kind of stuff I miss. So, but anyway, yeah, I mean, I had fun by doing that, you know, sitting around just doing a little bit of night after night before we got back here. So you said you might want to do something else with it. What else you got in mind?
What do you mean for topics right now?
No, like moving forward with our script, with our show.
Oh, because so Journey of Wrestling is a free video game that you can go to their website, journeyofwrestling.com, and it's got a lot of options. And basically, what we can do is we can put our companies in the game and say these are the companies we want to run, or we can combine them, whatever, and week by week, who's fighting who, what storylines where, what are we changing gimmicks, is this person gonna be like a heel now? So I see there's many avenues to turn that into something, but I can send you the link once we're all done here.
Absolutely. And you know, one of the questions I'm sitting there reading one of my own questions I threw out here, but maybe you have an answer, because I'm sitting there looking and I'm thinking, and I really don't. I mean, I thought about it after I wrote it, but who do you think the best wrestler in the world today is? If you had to pick an absolute, just number one, who do you think it would be?
Yuya Uemura, hands down. Like,
okay,
with all everything combining and compounding, he's young, he's set. He's like, how do I phrase this? Yuya Uemura is like the guy you look at that you go, nothing's stopping you. You can't be champ now because we need other things to happen. But no matter where they put Yuya, he's fantastic. He looks great. He's handsome. He's great with the crowd. His work rate is good, but his work rate's also like solid psychology wise. And he's still so young. So it's one of those things where it's like, let's say a baby face Jake Roberts. Like we don't have to push you to the moon right now, because at any point we can put you in the main event and everyone will go, yeah, okay. It's like they took Hiroshi Tanahashi and put him in a little egg, and we're all waiting for this egg to crack. You know what I mean? Like, you're all like, come on, buddy, any day now, we're gonna world champion you anymore. It'll be
all the stuff that I keep like listening to between all the different podcasts of who should jump companies and who shouldn't. I don't have a definite answer for that one either. The only person I can think of off the top of my head that I think if that she wants to get back on TV is maybe Britt Baker. If she could get out, if she gets out of her contract, go get put on TV in NXT, because they just did all those call ups, so there would be room to start showcasing her. But you don't know what's going on behind. She's not injured according to reports. She's healthy. She's ready to go. So we have no idea why she's not back on TV. But I can't sit here and think of one or the other. I am curious though, because I'm pretty sure all those people that got released are probably under a 90-day no compete clause, like usual. So I will be interested to see who Tony picks up and who he doesn't. I think there's a few in there that he will. I think he absolutely wants the New Day if he can get a hold of them, because I know their New Day rocks and stuff gimmick was getting stale. They've been doing it for 10 plus years, and plus Big E was gone, so that same energy wasn't there. It was just because Big E's got no pun intended. That's a big personality to not be in the group, and
they're welcome anywhere. And I would say they have, well, people might want to debate me on this, but you can't, because you got to defend the Fed. They have fuck you money at this point. Kofi, he's been around for 10 years now at a significant
Creed
level. Like
Xavier Creed, whatever you want to call him, he had been there for 10 years. Kofi been there long.
True. Kofi's been bad. Yeah. Since like the what do they call it? Ruthless aggression era. Airstrike, was it him in Evan Bourne, I want to say.
Yeah, something like that. I remember what you're talking about, but
if you like people, I've noticed people they're very careful in the argument, because they don't want to admit that someone might have fuck you money in wrestling, because that sort of diminishes the power of the Fed. But they can't not say that the Fed paid them well, because that then, you know what I mean? So it's like there's a lot of people treading water very carefully that are trying to put the New Day down without putting the New Day down. Like, I've seen a lot of this on Facebook where people are trying to say it's the New Day's fault, and everyone's going, really? You know what I mean? Like, the New Day is not Baron Corbin, is what I'm trying to say. Like, if you didn't have creative for Baron Corbin, okay, sure, whatever. You don't have creative for Kofi or Xavier, nothing. But this is the whole restructuring thing. But yeah, they could go anywhere. I think they should go somewhere weird. Too many people are taking the safe bet, and it's becoming not a monopoly. It's like a biopoly. What I'm trying to say is New Day should show up to Noah or DDT and just say, fuck you guys, we're doing what we want. It's like Ben Affleck. I might be rambling, but Ben Affleck would make a big multi-million-dollar movie, and then he would go do something weird for like a little weird movie, and then he'd go do a big paycheck movie, and then he'd do a weird, drama. Part of me thinks that's what the New Day should do. You've done the big stuff. Go be weird. Go do a small independent that'll help boost ticket sales. Go to a company that's just not one of the big three. Let's lump TNA in this. You know what I mean? Like, even NWA or whatever, like, if they go somewhere different and people go, whoa, what do you mean? Like, if a normal Fed fan has to look up what DDT is, I think that's a win in my column.
Well, speaking of NWA, I'm going to tell you earlier, I was scrolling through the TV Saturday night, and I don't know if you guys have it there, but I was scrolling through the guide, and NWA Power was on Comet TV.
I've seen a highlight recently, actually.
Yeah, and if you're not familiar with Comet,
but yeah, they had like
Comet TV shows a lot of old shows and stuff like that, like the Andy Griffith Show and things of that nature. But it was like 11 o'clock at night on Saturday, but it was like, oh, look at that. So I sit there and watched it. The Good Brothers on there.
I wish I could find the numbers in front of me, but apparently they have been drawing better numbers than TNA.
I
Like
still haven't. I haven't watched
look,
another show since we watched the first one.
I'm not saying I know that the Nielsen readings are something to be taken seriously. All I'm saying is some people take it seriously, and if you're taking it seriously, then we got to take the numbers that NWA has seriously. Because hey, if they're growing, I'm totally down for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So hoping for November, hoping before November, but if not, there's November. You got any final thoughts for us tonight? What we might be doing next week? I have no idea. I think the final, because the pay-per-view is not this weekend; it's next Sunday. So,
who knows? Because Best of the Super Juniors is ongoing right now. So who knows? By next week, I might be 6 shows down. You know, it's a touring tournament, so there might be one tomorrow and the next day and the next day, and take one day off and the next day and the next day. So I might be exhausted.
When is our turn? When is our turn to tell them about what we saw on our last road trip to MLW?
Oh, well, I believe you just did it there, but I think that's going to be, we're going to try to record that tomorrow and continue this twice a month routine. So it'll probably come out in a couple weeks.
Oh, that sounds good to me. All right. Well, if that's all, we got you. For Paul, I'm Jason. We'll see you next Thursday. Follow us, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter. Yeah, we're there too. Here every Thursday night live, 8-ish. I won't say 8, 8-ish. We'll see you next time.